Welcome to Where Parents Talk. My name is Lianne Castelino. Our guest today is a former broadcaster, mental health advocate, and speaker. Sophie Gregoire Trudeau is also an author. Her first book is called Closer Together: Knowing Ourselves, Loving Each Other. Sophie is also a mother of three, and she joins us today from Ottawa. Thank you so much for making the time.
My pleasure, Lianne. Nice to be with you.
You are a mom of two teenagers and a 10-year-old. How would you go about describing your general approach to raising teens today?
What a big question. Presence. I would say presence and independence. And this is easy to say, not so easy to do. Parenting is a role instead of a relationship. And that's what I keep reminding myself of, is that in a relationship, the only way you can show love is by being present and by letting the other be who they are. So presence and independence.
There is so much going on in that adolescent phase of development, unquestionably. Where did you turn, or did you turn to resources? Did you do research prior to your first teen being part of the family and, then adding a second teen as well?
Well, that happened in less than, it happened at the same time because they're only 18 months apart, right? Yeah, I think I've read, a couple of books like The Dolphin Parent by Shimi Kang. And there's a couple of things, how to hold on to your kids by Dr. Gabor Mate and Dr. Gordon Neufeld, which were all before I started writing the book, or they intertwine. But, nothing teaches you how to parent. We all know this. But the one thing that I've learned is that the more work you do on yourself to face your own truth and your own traumas, whether that's a big T trauma, like something bad that happened to you, or chronic little stresses that you never thought really mattered, but at one point, you discover that the body says no and you can't do it anymore. We all have trauma in small or big ways. So I think that as a parent, your deepest responsibility is to face your own inconvenient discomforts in order to grow as an individual and to respect your child. To not project on your child what you haven't realized or what you would want to realize or what you want them to become. My children are my children, but they don't belong to me. They belong to this world. They're human beings. There is a spiritual component to parenting for me, and this has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with the fact that there is a greater force in this universe that has me in awe. And I think that when human beings, actually the research is showing that when human beings believe that there is something greater than us that unites us, this feeling of awe allows you to put a little bit of your ego away in your decisions. And I think when we parent, our ego gets in the way a lot. And, so does mine. I'm not invincible to this. But if you're conscious of these processes, then you can navigate the fog of life better. And God knows that raising kids means lots of fog and lots of debris in the mind, and that it's not always a clear road and a clear map to where we're going. And that's okay.
It is absolutely, definitely a learning process, and what works today may not work tomorrow and may not work with child 1, child 2, or child 3. Yeah. You talk about emotional literacy. It's really the focus of your book. And I wonder, youth mental health is certainly a global epidemic. And there doesn't seem to be an end in sight if you talk to many of the experts. You're a mental health advocate. How have those two facts, the fact that we're in a youth mental health crisis right now and that you are an advocate in this space, how have they shaped you as a parent and how you parent?
So, because I'm a mental health advocate and because I'm a curious student and I just want to learn more about the roots of our problems as a society, I realized that a lot of our afflictions, whether they are addictions, whether they are learning disabilities, and I'm generalizing here, there are very unique cases that we can't talk about today, but we are reacting to a world where we are living in kind of abnormal circumstances in many ways. The stressors, the rapidity at which we are needed to perform, the fact that we don't sleep as we should sleep, and sleep disturbances and insomnia is an epidemic in themselves, our bodies and our minds are reacting to very unique environmental stressors and reality. So let's include the tablets and the screens in there for a second. And what I understand from what I'm seeing from my kids and kids everywhere, because I've always been interested in youth self-esteem, and I've been reading, meeting kids from all walks of life in different countries on the planet. What I realize is that human connection is key. So the biggest trauma you can inflict on a human being is lack of human connection or traumatic human connection, right? But the beautiful irony of all of this is that you can actually heal through human connection. So part of the problem is also part of the solution. But because we're now, being watched by AI or heard by AI or, influenced by AI and social media at a way where our brains are actually, they don't even have time to reset and to process and to, encourage discernment in how we consume. I see young human beings and teenagers that are not having the time to be present and to be independent. And this brings us back to the first question you asked me. As a guide and as a parent, if I'm not careful with my own sense of independence, if I continuously choose my attachment to life and to people over my authenticity instead of the opposite, and if I don't regulate myself, and if I don't consume things that serve me, to continue to have a flexible mind and a heart that can stretch and love, then what are they feeding off? Because the closest people that you live with in your household are getting not only your values and your words, but more than that, they're getting your actions, your energy, and how your nervous system is hijacked by stress. Or are you able to relax and know how to come back to home within you? How you treat yourself. How do you treat yourself when no one's watching? What's the conversation you have with yourself as an adult? That tone, that respect or disrespect, that competition or that compassion, that patience or that impatience is what kids feed off from.
With that knowledge, with what you just shared, do you make it a point to have these conversations with your own children, given, the context of your family, the background, et cetera, the world we live in right now, and all of the stressors that you just outlined? Do you make it a point to be intentional about having those conversations about screens, et cetera, et cetera?
Absolutely. I would rather have an awkward conversation than to have silence. Silence can kill. This is literal. People are taking their lives away at a rate that is unprecedented when we had the biggest technological advances, because human connection is in danger. And the most unhappy human beings are the ones who cannot trust in others. So here's the thing. When we look at the population, so we all have a nervous system, right? You have one, I have one, everybody who's listening has one. And there's two main branches to our autonomic nervous system. The sympathetic branch, which is our fight, flight, freeze. If there's a car that's going to pass by, you have to stop. It was the saber-toothed tiger that was going to come in the cave when you were in, when we look at our ancestors and you needed to save your children or whatever. And then there's the parasympathetic branch, which is the rest and digest, how to reset, how to restore. And during one day, we go from one branch to the other. It's normal. And, there's positive stressors in our lives that are great because they lead us to action and to decision-making and to moving forward. But when we are chronically stuck in our alert mode, in our sympathetic nervous system, the one of the two branches, we become sick physically and mentally. So what I learned that I found so fascinating while writing this book is that right now, if you had a neutral expression on your face, but I am in my alert mode, I'm stressed, I could interpret your neutral face expressions as aggressive. Think about the state of the world right now. Research is showing that almost half of the population is chronically stuck or too often in their alert mode, in their sympathetic branch. Therefore, you are misreading the facial expressions which you pick up in 100 milliseconds in other human beings. You can misread others' behaviors and persona because you are insecure. You are not in a good place. So Think about all the movements that divide, that promote anger and fear, and that want to polarize. They are based in a lack of connection to oneself, and hatred is based in a deep need for connection that never took place. And I talk about that in the book with experts. It's fascinating.
It is fascinating. And when you bring up things like anger and fear, certainly social media is a big part of stirring that up and amplifying it. How do you manage social media with your children in the current world that we live in?
You know what? I think that because our children and I, and, Dustin and as parents, we really choose to have conversations that can create discomfort instead of not talking about stuff. I think that as we grew with our children, right, 10, 15, and 16, nothing comes as a big surprise. Oh my God, are we really talking about this? No, I think we have wired each other in our brains to go into zones of discomfort that aren't always fun to be in, and they can create sadness or anger, and we're not perfect. Like sometimes we scream, and sometimes the kids scream, and sometimes we lose patience, and that's life. We learn, and we go back. We catch it, we pause, and we repair it. CPR. Dr. John Gray in my book talks about that, and I really learned from that. Whether it's in a romantic relationship, whether it's parenting, whether it's in your workplace, if you catch your emotions rising and you are like, okay, I'm angry at my kid right now and I'm going to lose patience, like my hand could just leave and it hurt somebody right now. I'm sure there's a lot of parents who have felt that way in moments of deep impatience or anger or whatever. And if you catch it and you pause, don't take those 5 other emails that are coming because you think you're going to lose your job, because it's the breathing in between that would allow you to actually make things more equanimous and more peaceful. So CPR, catch your emotion, pause, take a couple of deep breaths, bring your nervous system back into a state of calm, then you can repair it. And Gordon Neufeld, who's a specialist in teenagers and child psychology, says when you work with teenagers and with kids, look at them first before talking, or put a soft hand on their arm or on their back. Look for connection before areas of life, to look for a connection before engaging. I think it's important.
Without question. Sophie, how would you describe your parenting style?
That's a tough one. I would say a mix of lioness mama with go out and fall on your faces so you can learn who you are.
It's interesting to hear you say that because you grew up as an only child. So was that your experience?
That's a great question. I think it was part of my experience. I'm a very present mother, whether it's physically, and I try to be emotionally. I'm interested in what my kids are feeling and sensing. I remain curious of their states and of their lives. I show interest. And sometimes I think it's important that I detach from them and to cut the cord a little bit, which ouch, hurts. But go out there, my loves. Go out there, go spread your wings and, miss that canyon and fall, because you'll have enough love within you to get back up. I've actually told them this with these words. If something were to happen to me, yeah, I know that it would be, and I hope it doesn't happen, right? Mm-hmm. But if something were, you have enough love in you to figure it all out along the way. And it's going to hurt because truth hurts, but don't be afraid of it. Big human emotions are normal. Fear is normal, but you have enough love in you to not panic. Panic can be deadly. And I hope my kids can feel that they have enough solidity and trust in life and in humans. And I hope that we have given that to them, in part, and then that they develop it on their own. That's my true hope for them.
You've also had the perspective and experience of raising kids with a partner in public office. What would you change, if you could, about parenting in that context?
The state of the world? I don't think that's a tough question, because we live our lives like we live our lives. I can't change the parkour. I can't change the course. I can change my attitude, my capacity for resilience to it, my vulnerability, me showing myself vulnerable, saying, I don't got this today. I don't feel good. It sucks, but it is what it is. So I heard a Buddhist saying it said, you decide, do you want the pain now or later? Because that's just life. You decide. Well, I choose to face it. I'm imperfect. Some days I'm much better at facing it than others. And I'm a sensitive heart and I'm a big hearted woman. So yeah, it hurts. It hurts. But life does. And it makes us stronger. And I'm not saying that we should inflict pain just for the fact of getting stronger. That's not what I'm saying. But I think that it's a conscious choice to see life as it is. And because part of our lives has a public lens, that's not how we live our lives in our homes and with our friends and how we interact with other human beings. I don't care if, some people think that there's a public aspect to our lives. I don't believe in fame and celebrity. I've met enough of these people in my life to understand and to experience the fact that it's all a wind of illusion. We're confused. We adore people who we don't know. We get glimpses of their imperfect lives in perfect images. It's a delusion. It's a delusion that we're in. I don't want to live in that illusion. I want to live in the reality of real people with real hearts and minds who are trying to make this world better in their own small or big ways. So what I've come to understood, when hate really stems from a need for connection that never took place, I understand that it's not this personal. It's not that personal. People need people to blame. People need to get their anger out. But what really concerns me is, how do we get these people to come back into a place of calm inside their own brains and nervous systems? Because when you look at those movements on a larger scale, which trigger the fear, which trigger the insecurities, and which shows other people as a threat to ourselves, that's very dangerous. It's putting our free press, our democracies, our communities, and our households and our brains at risk. And I refuse to let my arms down and to not do anything about it. And I will do something about it until my last breath. I am dedicated to this for a very long time.
You talk about making conscious choices. And when the separation was announced in 2023, what would you say the focus was in terms of how you and the Prime Minister were going to approach raising your children in this context?
Well, we were going to continue to be the loving and truthful and open-hearted parents that we were, whether it's through difficult times or through easier times. I'm proud to say that our binding love and friendship still serves as a base of parenting between all of us. You don't lose love for somebody because you restructure a relationship. Sometimes love is meant to set free, and it's not the most convenient choice. And I really wish we didn't have to share it with the world, obviously, but it's just not the path that we are on. And when you keep resisting winds that are part of your life, you're not being your creative self. And resistance is not a place of love and of freedom and of independence. So you accept the pain and you accept the change, and the brain doesn't like uncertainty, but you have to navigate, no matter if the world is watching or not. I think at the end of the day, when you go to bed, is, did I do my best? How much did I love? Did I love well enough? And how much did I serve? That's what I think about. And I don't have it all figured out. I really don't. I'll just continue to love and try to work at myself as much as possible.
You decided to restructure your relationship. That was the approach that you collectively decided on. For someone who maybe is not familiar with that notion, what does that mean, restructuring the relationship in the context that you find yourselves in as co-parents?
I think I'm brainwashed by our success is marriage, divorce is failure. Symbol of a successful relationship, and I'm quoting Esther Perel here, my great friend and ally. I think that we have not been taught to be mature relationally and individually by accepting our truths. Therefore, when we come into conflict in a relationship, it's more difficult for us to navigate because we feel threatened by rejection. Nobody wants to feel rejected and left alone. That's the death in a tribe if you're left out. And that's still the same brain of 200,000 years old who doesn't want to be left out because it's for our own survival. So we are meant to be inhuman, but if we work and if we look at our childhood bond, for example, and how we were raised, let's choose waters patiently with presence and work. It takes work to navigate relationships. It doesn't come that naturally or that easy. That's what I've learned.
It's a constant learning, definitely. Statistics indicate that 85% of families in Canada where there's a separation, it results in shared parenting. What does co-parenting look like for you in your case?
I would say it's organic. We trust each other. When one is on the road, the other one is there, to hold the fort, and vice versa. And, we help each other plan activities and we take care of the kids. We discuss the kids. I think it's really important to not cut communication. This is what I've noticed in couples that have separated or divorced, is that all of a sudden you leave separate lives, but you forget that you're responsible from an energetic point of view, from a logistical point of view, from a psychological point of view, the same human beings that you used to share a household with. So whether or not you're responsible for your spouse anymore, or for part of your spouse's world or inner life, or heart, I think we have to continue to be caregivers in a different way, but to care and to be open-minded enough and flexible in our hearts without feeling insecure about whatever's happening in a former partner's life. And this is easier said than done, okay? I'm very cognizant of this. But I think we have to continue to care and to show our kids that love can take different forms through a lifetime, and it can grow outside of what we have been learning of what it actually looks like. And I think that's true love. I think that love is malleable, it is transformable, and it is meant to evolve and change shape. And it's not convenient all the time. And that's not how I don't think that's what love is. I think it's awareness. I think love is awareness and presence. And it demands that we adapt and change and be flexible in our minds and in our hearts.
So along those lines, then, are there any tips or strategies that you can share that you've learned, that you've seen, that you've researched now through the course of writing this book, that you can share with other parents who may be going through a separation, or who are trying to come up with a plan on how they are going to communicate and parent their children in separate homes, or whatever the situation is? Because as you mentioned, none of it is easy.
None of it is easy, but I think it's a test for us to show how much good heart and good mind we have, how much care we truly have for a person that we put children with onto this earth. And sometimes dynamics are very unequal, and that's very difficult for one partner or the other because one puts more in and the other doesn't. I think we have to respect each other. I think the most important thing when you restructure relationships is to hold on to what was good instead of criticizing what was bad, is not to bad mouth anybody. I think that's very important, to have the maturity to see beyond what makes us insecure and what makes us angry. I think to always remember that you cannot heal two brains exactly at the same time. When one talks, the other listens, without criticizing, without judging. Just listen. Listen and try to pay attention to the little child inside the adult who feels insecure. And try to have more compassion. Compassion is key in life. It is key. And the earlier we develop it, the better. And I talk about that in Closer Together in the book, because we try to want to find solutions for people, whether it's our friends or our teenagers or our children and our lovers or partners. And it's not our role. We're there to grow together. So let's find ways that are nourishing for us to grow together. And this doesn't always mean that we'll grow the same rhythm, which is actually the most difficult thing. I remember hearing somebody say, oh yeah, the key to a long relationship is the fact that, we never want to divorce at the same time. So I think we just have to leave each other space and time, and to not care so much for the two only definitions that we were brought up with when it comes to family, which is success is marriage and divorce is failure. I think we have to be very careful and mature about the drama that we leave onto our kids. That is not their grunt to bear. It is not their cape to wear. And we have, as adults, to take that away so that they can focus on what's important for them in their lives. That's really what the deepest responsibility that I see.
You started to write the book and put it together before your family situation. And I wonder, the book is ultimately about emotional literacy, as we've talked about. What did you learn through all the experts you talked to, through the research that you looked at, that has impacted how you now parent?
My capacity, our capacity, every human being's capacity to intervene on our own nervous system. This may sound detached, it may sound too scientific, but it is not. And I'll tell you why. I have gone to my mat. I'm a yoga practitioner, and I do yoga nidra, which is a form of yogic sleep. It's just scanning the body while it's not moving, but keeping the mind awake. And I have seen firsthand how through heartache, through tears of sadness, through tears of sweat, through anger, through not understanding how to navigate my own ship, that I have the capacity to calm my nervous system so I can distance myself from my pain, even just for a moment. And to continue to trust that I have the capacity to navigate pretty much anything in life with love and with patience and with discipline. And this is why I go back to my mat. It could be gardening for you. It could be riding a bike. It could be calling a friend. It could be exercising. It could be cooking. It could be martial arts. It could be meditative walks, whatever you choose, but be careful and discerning in what you choose, because there are not 5,000 ways to calm your nervous system. And the vagus nerve exercises that I teach, that big cranial nerve that goes through our whole body, our chest, from the brainstem into the throat, chest, abdomen and lower abdomen. Careful and discerning in what you choose, because there are not 5,000 ways to calm your nervous system. And the vagus nerve exercises that I teach, that big cranial nerve that goes through our whole body, our chest, from the brainstem into the throat, chest, abdomen and lower abdomen, responsible for our breathing, responsible for so many functions in the body. And guess what? We get to intervene on the vagus nerve. And there are simple breathing exercises. There are stretching the neck exercises. There are very simple tools that you can bring into your life every day. Some of them take 5 minutes. Some of them take 30 seconds. Some of them take 30 minutes. You choose. You choose what you bring attention to. And at the end of the day, we are responsible as human beings for what we choose to bring our attention to. And the earlier we will teach this to kids, the better our society, our democracy out there, and the change makers, and our better systems, we will be more at peace within ourselves, and therefore we'll be peacemakers in the world.
Sophie, what would you like parents who read Closer Together to leave with?
Let go of the shame, guilt, especially moms. It doesn't serve you. You can't be a perfect parent at all times. It's going to be okay. Did your best in the moment. You can always do better. It's okay. Then you can do better at every time. And if you fail again, get back up and admit your failures to your kids. Don't shy away from them. We're only as sick as our secrets, Michael J. Fox said. Don't keep secrets from yourself. Don't keep secrets from your kids, for that matter. They feed off that energy. And parenting is not a role. Don't take that role with your ego. It's a relationship. So lean in. Become authentic and vulnerable in that relationship, because what will come out of that will be so, will give you chills. And I have some just talking about it, because when you choose to be vulnerable and to be real, the effects that it has, not only on your nervous system, but on your relationships and on your life, it's a compounding effect. And every time you go to it, it will become greater in time. So it's an investment. Parenting is an investment at every choice you make. And you can't control your children. You can guide them, yes, and you can set boundaries, absolutely important. But in the end, let them become who they are. Let them study and lean into what they love, not what we want them to lean into and what they love. Set them free. Set them free. Set the little birdies free out of the nest, because in the end, they'll meet you in those skies. It's going to make me cry. Oh my God. Oh my. They'll meet you in those skies, and sometimes you'll be looking for them, but they'll come back. And that's what love is. So, wow. Yeah, I'm feeling it. That's for sure.
So much food for thought. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for your time, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau, author of Closer Together. We so appreciate your time and your perspective today.
I wish you well on the path. We'll meet again. Thank you.
Thank you.